Hi, so today we're going to begin a new chapter dealing with um, powers and exponents in the first lesson. The first thing we want to review is what we're talking about when we're talking about a power. Um, Basically, you're going to see something written like this. For example, 4 to the third power, we would say that. We have a 4 here and a superscript 3. Uh, Basically, what this whole thing is a power. Whenever we talk about power, that's what you'll call that. And this part here, the larger number, is called your base, and the smaller number up top is your exponent. So basically what this is telling us is we're going to take the number 4 and multiply it by itself this number of times, so 3 times. So 4 to the third power is 4 times 4 times 4. Notice I multiply it 3 times, and I get 64. So another way to write 4 to the third power is 64. So let's go ahead and look at your first example, A, or 1A. We have 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. We want to write that as an exponent. Notice we're multiplying 10 by itself 5 times. So our base is 10, and since we're doing it 5 times, we're going to write 10 to the 5th power. Our next example, B, we have a little bit more of a complicated base here. We have P plus 2 in parentheses, 2 terms in parentheses multiplied by another set of those 2 terms in parentheses multiplied by a third set of those terms in parentheses. Notice this is occurring 3 times, so our exponent is still going to be 3, but now instead of our base being a number, it's this whole quantity, p plus 2, all raised to the third power. Now in our next example, example 2, we want to look at evaluating expressions with exponents. We're still going to use the order of operations. Remember, and please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, exponents does come second right after parentheses. So let's take a look at the example. We've got x squared minus 4 if x is equal to negative 6. So we're going to evaluate this whenever x is negative 6. So let's go ahead and put negative 6 in for x, meaning it's negative 6 squared minus 4. So just like we would multiply x by itself, 2 times x times x, we're going to do negative 6 times negative 6. So negative 6 times negative 6, still keep the minus 4. When we do these, we get a positive 36 minus 4, which becomes 32. So that's how we would evaluate that expression at x equals negative 6. So those are our examples. Let's try the exercises below. Alright, so for number 1, we have 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. You might want to try and pause these before I go over them if you want to test yourself to see how well you understand. Notice the thing we're multiplying by itself is 5, and that's occurring 7 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to go ahead and raise that to the 7th power. Number 2 looks like this. Negative 7 times negative 7 times negative 7. Notice our base is going to be negative 7, and we want to put that in parentheses because the whole thing, the negative and the 7, gets multiplied 3 times. And we're going to raise that whole thing to the 3rd power. Looking at number 3, we have 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3. And this time our base, the thing we see repeating over and over again, is the 1/3. And that happens 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So let's take that whole parenthesis and raise it to the 4th power. For number 4, we actually have two variables. We have x times y times y. So we have the x's times each other twice. So we're going to write x squared. We have the y's times each other twice. So we can just write times y squared. And we don't even need the dot really, because it's understood that when variables are written beside each other, we're multiplying. So that's my final answer, x squared, y squared. For number 5, I have z minus 4 times z minus 4. That base there is obviously going to be z minus 4. Since it's being multiplied by itself twice, we're going to square it. Let's go ahead and look at number 6. We've got 3 times negative t times negative t times negative t. We'll keep the 3. The negative t occurs 3 times, though, being multiplied together 3 times. So we'll take negative t as our base and take it to the 3rd power, and that's going to be our final answer. Alright, now let's go ahead and look at number 7. Recalling, you'll see on your worksheet g equals 3, h equals negative 1, and m equals 9. The first one we're going to look at is g to the 5th power. Remember, g is equal to 3. So we're going to take g times g times g times g times g. We'll put in 3. So it will be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So we end up with 9 times 9. And then this leftover 3. 9 times 9 is 81 times 3. And then 81 times 3 is going to be 243 for our final answer. Okay, let's look at number 8. We've got 5 squared. Remember, again, g is 3, so we have really 5 times 3 squared, or 5 times 3 times 3, and that's going to be 5 times 9, or we'll write that as 45 for our final answer. Alright, number 9, we have g squared minus m. Again, g is 3, so we have 3 times 3 minus m, which is 9. So we'll do our order of operations. 3 times 3 becomes 9, minus 9, and you subtract those, and you get 0 for your final answer. Number 10, we have 4 times the quantity 2m minus 3 squared. And there's a couple ways you could do this. You could evaluate this whole thing first, then square it, or you could square it first, then evaluate. I think it's going to be easier for us if we put our m value in first, which is 9. So it's going to be 4 times 2 times 9 minus 3 parentheses squared. Using our order of operations, remember, parentheses come first. So even though exponents come second, we have to do everything inside the parentheses first. So continuing with that idea, we want to multiply first, and we get 2 times 9 is 18 minus 3, and then we'll take 8 times 15 squared, which is 4 times 15 times 15. And you can put that whole thing into your calculator, where you can consider 15 times 15 is 225 times 4, and that whole expression is going to give you 900 for your final answer. Going on to number 11, we have negative 2 times the quantity g cubed plus 1. So remember, g is 3, so we're going to put 3 in for g, which is 3 cubed plus 1. Parentheses first. Inside the parentheses, we'll do exponents first. So we have negative 2, 3 times 3 times 3, plus 1 in parentheses. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. And we finally have negative 2 times 28. 2 times 28 is 56. And we'll make that negative for our final answer of negative 56. Finally, looking at number 12, we have 5 times the quantity h to the 4th minus m squared. H, remember, is negative 1. So essentially we have 5 times parentheses negative 1 to the 4th minus 9 squared, close parentheses. The first thing we want to do is worry about what's inside of our parentheses, and the exponents are going to come first. So let's think about this. We have 5 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. We also have 9 times 9 being subtracted. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, so those are going to cancel out. Negative 1 times negative 1 here is positive 1, positive 1. So this whole negative 1 to the 4th, and actually any negative 1 to an even power, is going to give you a positive 1. And then 9 times 9 is 81. So we have 1 minus 81 in parentheses. Let's keep working with the parentheses. We get negative 80 inside times 5, and 5 times 80 is 400. Make it negative, and your final answer is negative 400. So that concludes today's lesson on powers and exponents. If you have any questions in class, feel free to ask me, and make sure to complete the practice worksheet on the back of your notes. Thanks for watching.